My mother called me 3 days after her funeral because she'd been alive the whole time. I stood in my kitchen at midnight, phone shaking in my hand, hearing her voice on a voicemail that shouldn't exist. A voice I'd buried 2 weeks earlier under 6 feet of freshly turned dirt, surrounded by flowers I'd chosen myself because I thought they were her favorite. Let me back up, because none of this makes sense without the beginning. 2 weeks before that call, I buried an empty casket. I didn't know it was empty at the time. My brother Daniel handled everything, and I let him, because grief makes you grateful for anyone willing to carry the weight you can't lift yourself. He booked the funeral home. He filed the death certificate. He even arranged the cremation paperwork, quietly, efficiently, before I'd even finished crying long enough to ask a single question. I never once saw her body. He told me it was too painful for me to see her that way, after the illness had taken so much from her already. I believed him completely. Why wouldn't I? He was her executor, her firstborn, the one she'd always trusted most with the hard decisions nobody else wanted to make. $12 million sat in that estate, meant to split 3 ways between me, Daniel, and our younger sister, except the will had quietly changed 4 days before she died. I got nothing. Our sister got nothing. Daniel got everything, every account, every property, every last cent down to the coins in her old change jar. I told myself grief was making me paranoid, that surely there was an explanation I simply hadn't been given yet. Grief does strange things to a person's sense of math, and I wanted so badly to believe the best about my own brother, the boy I used to share a bedroom with. Then the voicemail came, 3 days later, at a time of night when nothing good ever calls. Her voice, weak, terrified, barely holding together, said Daniel had drugged her, moved her to a private facility upstate, hours from anyone who knew her name, forged her signature on the new will while she was too sedated to even understand what she was signing her name to. I didn't sleep that night, not for one single second. I drove 3 hours through the dark, following a GPS pin she'd somehow, impossibly, managed to send from a phone that shouldn't have existed in whatever room they were keeping her in, hands gripping the wheel the entire way. The facility was real. She was real, thin, confused, frightened in a way I'd never once seen her before in my entire life, but alive, undeniably, miraculously alive. She told me everything in a shaking whisper, gripping my hand like she was afraid I might disappear too, the same way she disappeared from me. Daniel had been quietly stealing from her accounts for nearly 2 years. When she finally caught the discrepancies and threatened to cut him from the will entirely, he panicked in a way none of us saw coming. He bribed a coroner he'd met years earlier through a business contact, faked her death on paper, buried an empty casket in front of 40 grieving relatives who cried real tears for a woman who was still breathing, planned the entire time to disappear with the money the moment probate quietly cleared. I called the police from that parking lot, hands still shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone steady enough to speak. But here's the part nobody, not even the detectives, saw coming. When investigators pulled the coroner's full records going back years, they found something far bigger than my family's private tragedy. For other deaths, that same coroner had quietly signed off on that same year alone. For other families, grieving real funerals for people who weren't actually gone. For other missing bodies that were never bodies at all, just paperwork and convenient silence, bought with cash. Daniel wasn't running a one-man scheme in isolation. He was the smallest piece of a much larger inheritance fraud ring, operating quietly across 3 counties for at least 6 years, specifically targeting wealthy widows and isolated elderly parents with no close family oversight watching their estates. My mother is alive today, recovering slowly, but safe, surrounded now by people who actually check in on her every single day. Daniel is in federal custody, awaiting trial alongside the coroner and 2 estate lawyers who helped forge the paperwork that started this entire nightmare rolling. And me, the moment probate legally reopened, I split every single dollar of that inheritance evenly with my sister, without a second thought, without hesitation, without wanting a single extra cent for myself, because the money was never the point, not for 1 second of this entire ordeal. Knowing my mother was still breathing, still fighting, still here to call me at midnight when it mattered most, that was everything I could ever need. Some inheritances aren't really about what you're given in the end. They're about what almost got taken from you completely, and how close you came to never knowing the truth at all until it was too late to matter.